Parties are going to happen because people will group together. The difference is having an election system that isn't winner takes all. It allows for a greater variety of opinions and helps prevent extreme left or right ideologies from gaining power. Story 3. I appreciate the sentiment, but I cannot see it working without a significant shift, something more disruptive than what we are currently experiencing. Third parties get absorbed into one of the two major parties or are rendered ineffective. If there were no parties, they would inevitably evolve back into two. The concept of us versus them is a powerful force that is inextricable from human nature. Story 4. I made 2 Ask Reddit posts yesterday involving something practical and non-political. They were immediately removed. However, these same repetitive questions worded differently are allowed. It seems like this system is compromised. Story 5. The concept of no labels is meaningless. I am a Democrat because I believe in the policies of the Democratic Party. In fact, I often think the official policies are far too moderate. Removing party names does not change the beliefs that people hold. Individuals maintain their views regardless of how they are labeled. If you put me and a Republican in a room, told us we could no longer affiliate with political parties, and expected us to suddenly agree on everything, that is unrealistic. Story 6. I don't believe it's possible to have no political party. The reason the United States has a two-party system is that our method of determining outcomes, majoritarian voting, ensures there will always be a victorious majority opinion, with everyone else holding a differing view. This naturally leads to various opposition groups coalescing around the common goal of working together long enough to remove the policy they all disagree with. This phenomenon also occurs in multi-party systems, but it's easier to form shifting alliances so that the majority coalition isn't always composed of the same individuals with a singular goal keeping them cooperative until it is achieved. I also believe that to have no party implies that everyone is on the same team, and to have everyone on the same team means there is effectively one party. There is still at least one party. However, a single unopposed party can lead to situations like those seen in China and Russia. It is crucial to allow space for dissent, and if our culture vilifies those who divide the house, then those who best embody flattering caricatures of our culture will gain power. That is simply demagoguery. Story 7. Can we have an Ask America subreddit at this point? On one hand, it's Americans. How do you feel about the recent event or decision? On the other hand, it's Americans. Why aren't you revolting? Or Americans, why aren't you doing anything? I don't know if people are concerned or judgmental. I'm getting whiplash here. The top answer almost always seems to point to exhaustion, distress, and overwhelm. It's not going to magically improve from one day to the next. Do we really need these inquiries every day? Story 8. There is nothing wrong with parties. People disagree on various topics. It is natural for them to want to associate with those who share their views. Nebraska technically elects representatives on a nonpartisan basis, but the state has a Republican majority and a Republican majority legislature. Party affiliation also saves people a lot of time. I support Democrats because I support abortion rights and LGBTQ individuals. I do not need to research every single candidate when I vote, as I know that Democrats generally align with my views on most issues. Voters often blame politicians, but in reality, it is the voters who bear the responsibility. Voters ultimately receive what they desire. Story 9. Why are all these questions US-centric and always about current events? Shouldn't this belong in a political forum or something? Story 10. Washington's farewell address explicitly warned against political parties, and he was completely correct in his assessment. While I do not agree with most viewpoints that suggest equal shortcomings on both sides, it is clear that neither side is interested in meaningful electoral reform. I wish the Democratic Party understood that the duopoly is essentially a Republican monopoly with a controlled opposition. The two-party system is detrimental to everyone except those in power. Story 11. There is nothing I dread more than a division of the Republic into two major parties, each under its leader and coordinating measures in opposition to one another. In my humble opinion, this should be regarded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution. John Adams, The Works of John Adams, Second President of the United States. Story 12. It is impossible, in my humble opinion. There will always be parties because there will always be groups with shared interests and goals. As much as we complain about it, there will probably always be two parties, or at least two major parties. The world may not be binary, but human thinking often is. We are wired to see things as either slash or, and we tend to coalesce into two groups over almost any issue. Even in countries with multiple parties, there are usually only two significant ones, while the rest are smaller specialty parties that focus on a narrower range of issues. However, they almost always align with the general worldview of one or the other of the two largest parties, either right-leaning or left-leaning. Story 13. That is not how politics and humanity operate. Even in single-party states, there are factions within the party. Story 14. You would still have political parties in practice. It would all just be done behind the scenes, as it were, in an unofficial way. Similarly minded people would still try to ally for a common cause. Story 15. Not practical as long as political divisions exist. Everyone wants unity as long as it is their unity. This is how the party system emerged in the first place. Federalists and Democratic Republicans both believed they were the ones who wanted unity, but they felt the need to make temporary partisan decisions to keep the obvious bad actors out of office. Story 16. Aren't you all about to get only one party, the billionaire party? Or hasn't that already happened? Story 17. One party will divide. I believe the actual solution is to increase the number of parties. This approach will reduce the power of any single party and allow more people to vote in a way that meaningfully represents their interests, rather than constantly having to choose the lesser of two evils. Story 18. Well, there are a few issues here. I don't think Lincoln was arguing against partisan politics, as he was a product of partisan politics. The House, divided against itself, represented the country. The United States has been divided since its founding. The only time the United States really comes together is in response to an external threat. Much of the history that United States citizens learn in school was written in the aftermath of World War II and during the Cold War. The Civil Rights Act and Nixon's Southern strategy further divided the country. The Constitution still grants one person, and therefore one party, significant power within the executive branch. Even if Congress had 4 or 5 political parties and a coalition majority to name a Speaker of the House and Majority Leader in the Senate, it would still create a strong tendency towards partisan politics, allowing voters to ensure that their side is represented in the executive. Ranked choice voting is not going to solve this issue. It requires a constitutional overhaul, not just at the federal level, but for every state constitution as well. Story 19. We should have freed all the slaves, won the Civil War, and then expelled the Confederacy from the United States. Like Tom Hardy in The Bike Riders. I just wanted you to know it was my idea. Story 20. Before we even go down this thought experiment, understand that it is impossible within our current system. People who do not understand our system seem to think that the political parties are responsible for the world we have right now. But they are not. The world, as we see it, is the direct result of over half the population not participating in the system. I understand that it is a broken system, but currently we are absolutely powerless to change it. It is a first-past-the-post, winner-takes-all, non-proportional allotment of power. This means the first group with the biggest majority wins. If you start splitting up everyone, you will only be left with the 35% that will always march in lockstep together, which already exists as Trump's base. Fracturing the remaining 65% only ensures that the Republicans can win supermajorities with their 35% to 40% turnout. If you want to change our system, get involved in the Democratic Party, vote in its primaries, and vote in the general election. Do not pretend that this is someone else's responsibility or that you can hold off and wait for the perfect candidate. Story 21. I feel that the idea is appealing in theory, but human beings tend to group themselves by certain predefined traits, making it unlikely to have a single political party. Not everyone is on the same page or wants to be. Even if citizens were indoctrinated into becoming fervent nationalists to reach a consensus, that would still bring its own issues to resolve.